Thompson had always believed that love was measured in quiet sacrifices. At 75, she wore those sacrifices like invisible medals. The land she sold to pay for her son's engineering degree, the jewelry she pawned for his wedding, the nights she spent sewing uniforms to keep the lights on. She never asked for applause. A nod, a hug, or the sight of her only grandchild, little Emma, waving from the porch was enough. But on the evening of her son David and daughter-in-law Lisa's 10th wedding anniversary, the porch light stayed off. Grace arrived at their sprawling suburban home clutching a small velvet box. Inside lay a gold locket, her mother's, engraved with tiny roses. She had polished it for weeks, imagining Lisa's smile when she opened it. The party was in full swing. Fairy lights, champagne flutes, laughter spilling onto the lawn. David spotted her first. "Mom, you're early," he said, not unkindly, but with the distracted air of a man juggling phone calls and guests. "I thought I could help set up," Grace offered, stepping inside. Lisa appeared in a shimmering red dress, phone pressed to her ear. She ended the call with a brittle laugh. "Grace, we're good. Everything's catered." Her eyes flicked to the velvet box. "What's that?" "A little something for the happy couple." Grace's voice trembled with excitement. David took the box, opened it and frowned. "It's nice. Vintage, right?" He handed it to Lisa, who barely glanced inside before setting it on a side table already crowded with crystal vases and designer handbags. The evening wore on. Grace hovered at the edges, refilling water glasses no one noticed, smiling at jokes she didn't understand. Then came the speeches. David tapped his glass. "10 years ago, Lisa and I promised to build a life together. And look." He gestured at the marble counters, the infinity pool visible through French doors. "We did it. But let's be honest. Some things, they get old." Laughter rippled. Grace's smile froze. David continued. "Take this antique sideboard Mom insisted we keep. It's been cluttering the foyer for years. Lisa finally convinced me. Time to let go of old junk." He turned to Grace with a grin that didn't reach his eyes. "No offense, Mom, but maybe it's time you consider downsizing too. There's a lovely senior community nearby. They have bingo, shuffleboard." The room erupted. Someone shouted, "Hear, hear." Lisa raised her glass. "To new beginnings." Grace felt the floor tilt. The velvet box sat forgotten beneath a pile of napkins. She excused herself, legs numb, and drove home in silence. That night she didn't cry. She sat at her kitchen table, the same one where she'd helped David with algebra, and opened a drawer she hadn't touched in 15 years. Inside lay a brass key on a faded ribbon. Her husband Robert had pressed it into her hand the week before he died of a heart attack at 52. "If anything ever happens to me," he'd whispered, "this opens the future. Not for you to use lightly. Only when they forget what family means." Grace had laughed then. Robert always spoke in riddles. She'd tucked the key away and forgotten it, until now. The next morning, she drove to the First National Bank on Maple Street. The vault attendant, a young man named Tyler, recognized her from childhood visits with Robert. "Mrs. Thompson, haven't seen you since." "The key," she said simply. Tyler led her to the private viewing room. The safety deposit box was larger than she remembered. Her hand shook as she inserted the brass key. The lid lifted with a soft sigh. Inside, 12 gold bars, each stamped with the seal of the Bahamian Mint, a velvet pouch heavy with diamonds, and a single envelope addressed in Robert's handwriting. For Grace, when love runs out, she counted. At current prices, the gold alone was worth $1.2 million. The diamonds, another $800,000. Robert hadn't been a dreamer. He'd been a silent partner in a Nassau resort, liquidated after Hurricane David in 1979. The proceeds, invested wisely, had grown while Grace scrimped on canned beans and second-hand coats. Tyler's eyes widened. "Ma'am, do you need a bodyguard?" Grace laughed, the first real laugh in months. Just a taxi. She spent the afternoon with her lawyer, Mr. Patel, rewriting her will. The house David and Lisa lived in? Bought with her money, titled in her name for tax purposes. The cars, the college funds, the vacation club membership, all traceable to her accounts. Everything reverts to me, she instructed. Effective immediately. And the new will leaves a trust for Emma, accessible at 25, provided she visits me without her parents' prompting. Patel hesitated. Grace, this will destroy them. They destroyed themselves the moment they called me junk. By evening, the eviction notice was drafted. Grace signed it with a fountain pen Robert had given her on their 20th anniversary. She didn't go home. Instead, she checked into the Ritz-Carlton downtown, ordered room service, and slept for 14 hours. The confrontation came 2 days later. David's frantic voicemail woke her. Mom, the bank froze our accounts. They say the house is being foreclosed? What's going on? Grace met them at the house, her house, at noon. Movers were already loading Lisa's designer couches into a truck. David's face was the color of ash. You can't do this, he sputtered. We're family. Grace handed him the brass key. Family doesn't treat love like garbage. This key opens what's left of your future. If you earn it. Lisa lunged for the key. Grace stepped back. It's worthless without the combination. And the combination is respect. Emma peeked from behind her father's legs. Grandma. Grace knelt eye level with the 8-year-old. Sweetheart, would you like to see where mermaids live? Emma's eyes lit up. Really? Pack your swimsuit. We leave tomorrow. David started to protest, but the movers wheeled past with his flat-screen TV. Lisa burst into tears. Grace boarded a flight to Nassau the next morning with Emma clutching her hand. The condo was everything the photos promised. Turquoise water, white sand, a balcony where parrots squawked at sunrise. She enrolled Emma in the international school, hired a tutor, bought a sailboat named Second Chance. Back home, David took a job at a call center. Lisa sold Mary Kay from their cramped apartment. They tried to visit once. Grace met them at the airport with security. We're sorry, David pleaded. Sorry is a word, Grace said. Actions are currency. Spend wisely. Months turned to years. Emma grew tall and sun-kissed, fluent in 3 languages. She called Grace Nana Grace, and never mentioned her parents unless prompted. One Christmas, a package arrived from the States. Inside, the velvet box returned unopened. A note in David's handwriting. Asterisk, we found this in storage. Thought you'd want it back. Asterisk, Grace opened it. The locket gleamed. She fastened it around Emma's neck. This belonged to your great-grandmother, she said. She believed love should be cherished, not discarded. Emma traced the roses. Like you cherish me? Exactly like that. That night, Grace stood on her balcony watching the moon spill silver across the sea. The brass key hung on a chain around her neck. No longer needed, but never forgotten. She had opened the future, and it was golden.